The antiseptic burned as it seeped into the open gash on my forehead. I could barely keep my eyes open under the harsh fluorescent light, everything a blur of white walls, metal rails, and the sharp smell of disinfectant. My right arm felt twisted in a way that didn't seem human anymore, and there was a constant throb in my chest with every shallow breath. A nurse pressed gauze to my scalp and muttered something to another in a voice too calm for what I felt. I couldn't tell if the beeping I heard was coming from the machines or from inside my own head. All I knew was that I was in the emergency room, and I was alone. I fumbled to pull my phone from the side of the gurney with my good hand. The screen was cracked, my blood already dried in the lines of the glass. I dialed the one number that used to mean safety. It rang twice before I heard her voice. My mother. "Rachel, Sam didn't mean to hurt you. She's not well. Please don't make this worse." My fingers clenched the phone so tightly it slipped from my hand and hit the linoleum floor with a soft click. Not once did she ask if I was okay. Not once did she ask where I was or what had happened. She called me a problem, a disruptor, as if I had broken my own face just to get attention. I turned my head slightly to avoid the brightness above me and found myself staring at a stain on the ceiling tile. My eyes welled, but I refused to cry. Not now. Not after that call. The ER doctor leaned over me, a flashlight in hand. Pupils slow to respond, he said to someone I couldn't see. Possible concussion. Right arm appears fractured. We'll get a CT. Do you have anyone coming? Another nurse asked gently. I hesitated. The words should have been easy. Yes, of course. My parents. But I knew better. I blinked at her and whispered, "Probably not." She gave me a sad smile and nodded as if that answer didn't surprise her at all. While the team worked around me, I closed my eyes and tried to slow my breathing. I wasn't just in pain. I was drowning in betrayal. My sister had attacked me. In our parents' kitchen, she had cracked my head open against a cabinet and screamed at me like I was the monster. I had crumpled to the floor while she ran upstairs sobbing. And my parents, the people who should have carried me to safety, had gone after her, hugging her, shushing her, telling her it wasn't her fault. Now I was in the ER with a likely concussion and a broken arm, and they were probably still upstairs asking Sam if she wanted tea. It was not the first time, and that was the part that made this pain sit deeper than the wound on my head. This was not a one-time explosion or misunderstanding. It was a pattern, a script we had all followed for years. Sam broke down. Sam lashed out. Sam collapsed. And we all circled around her, cushioning the fall. I had become background noise, functional, strong, disposable. But something was different now, because this time I had proof. Medical records, X-rays, the voice of my mother on the phone telling me not to make it worse. This time, I would not explain away my pain. I would not swallow it. I would not let them rewrite the truth. A nurse came back with a clipboard asking me to confirm my insurance. I nodded weakly, unable to grip the pen. She paused and looked at me kindly. "Is there anything else we can do for you?" I wanted to say, "Bring my mother." I wanted to say, "Call someone who cares." But instead, I asked for water and whispered thank you, because deep down I already knew. No one was coming. Not from that house. And yet I wasn't entirely alone. I had something stronger than their guilt. I had a voice. And for the first time in my life, I was going to use it. People always said I was the easy one, the calm one, the one who didn't cause trouble. That wasn't a compliment. It was a role. A sentence. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 26 years old and I work as a medical technician at our city's general hospital. I've always paid my own rent-driven a car I bought with my own savings and spent most of my adult life proving I didn't need help. Not because I didn't want love or support, but because in my family needing anything made you a burden. And burdens got attention. That's why Samantha, my older sister, has always been the sun around which our entire family revolved. From a young age, Sam was intense. She cried, often screamed louder, demanded more. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, called her spirited, artistic, emotional. She was special, sensitive. I was practical, quiet, capable. Translation, I was invisible. Growing up, I knew not to complain. If I got a B, it meant I wasn't trying hard enough. If Sam got a C minus, she needed encouragement. If I cleaned the kitchen, no one noticed. If Sam did the dishes once, she got praise and hugs. When she failed out of her second college program, they said school just wasn't for everyone. When I got accepted into a competitive med tech program, they said, "That's nice, dear. Sam moved back home a year ago after losing another job. She said the environment was toxic. My parents believed her. They always did. She'd bounce between jobs, relationships, therapists, and always land right back in the house I'd moved out of at 19. I came over that night because Mom said Sam wasn't doing well again. I stopped by with soup and groceries like I'd done 100 times before. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and tension. Sam was in the kitchen pacing, muttering about some guy who ghosted her and a recruiter who ignored her brilliance. I set the groceries down quietly. I asked how she was doing. She snapped at me, said I was judging her, that I thought I was better. I said nothing at first, just tried to change the subject. But then after she threw a bowl across the room because the microwave beeped too loud, I said the one thing that cracked her open. "You can't live like this forever, Sam." Her eyes locked on mine like I'd slapped her. "You think you're better than me?" she shouted. "You think you're so perfect just because you play nurse all day and pretend to have your life together." I raised my hands. "Sam, I'm just saying maybe you should talk to someone again. Don't you dare patronize me." She stormed forward. I took a step back, but not fast enough. She grabbed the cast iron skillet off the stove. I barely had time to react before she swung. The pain was immediate. A crack to the side of my head, a flash of white light, and then darkness. I must have hit the corner of the counter when I fell. I don't remember the landing. Just the brief image of her face frozen in horror and the sensation of cold tile against my cheek. When I opened my eyes, next, everything was muffled. Voices, movement, then footsteps thudding overhead. My parents' voices. "Sam." What happened? I wanted to cry out, but my throat didn't work. I heard Sam sobbing. I didn't mean to. She made me feel so small. "It's okay, baby. It's okay," Mom whispered. "We're here. We'll fix this." No one came to me. No one touched me. No one asked if I could move. When the ambulance arrived, called by a neighbor who heard screaming, it wasn't my family who met the EMTs at the door. It was the woman next door, Mrs. Bennett. She told them what she heard. She pointed to where I lay. My parents were still upstairs holding Sam, telling her everything would be fine. I was barely conscious when they loaded me into the ambulance. My arm had swollen, grotesquely bent at a sick angle. Blood kept dripping from my scalp down into my eye. My chest hurt every time I tried to breathe. And all I could think was, not again. Not this time. This wasn't a tantrum or a breakdown. This was assault. But I knew how my parents would see it. Sam was having a moment. Sam needed grace. Sam didn't mean it. I was always the one who could handle pain quietly. Until now. I woke up sometime after midnight to the steady beeping of machines and the sterile hum of hospital air. My head was pounding and my arm was wrapped tightly in a sling. The room was dim except for the light above my bed, and I could hear soft footsteps approaching. It was Leah, my friend and coworker, still in her scrubs, her face tight with concern. She sat beside me without speaking, her presence grounding me in a way my family never could. I didn't have to explain anything to her. She'd already seen the chart, the scans, the trauma. She simply took my hand in hers and waited for me to breathe through the pain. I looked at the phone on the bedside table. No missed calls, no texts, just the memory of my mother's voice echoing in my mind. "She didn't mean to hurt you. She's not well. Please don't make this worse." I reached for the phone anyway and dialed my father. The call rang 3 times before he answered, voice-clipped, half-distracted like always. "Rachel, what is it?" "It's late." I swallowed against the dryness in my throat. "Dad, I'm in the hospital. Sam hit me. I have a broken arm and a concussion." His sigh came through the line like a judgment. "Rachel, she's going through a hard time. You know how fragile she is. You've always been stronger. Don't make this a crisis." I didn't respond. I just stared at the IV drip beside me, watching the bubbles rise. I could still hear him in my mind back when I was 12, the night he canceled my birthday dinner because Sam had a panic attack after losing a school debate. I'd sat at the table in my new dress while Mom whispered that I should understand. Sam just needed the attention more. I remembered my high school graduation. I'd won awards, earned scholarships, stood on stage alone while my parents rushed home early because Sam had misplaced her wallet and was spiraling. That night, Dad said, "You know how she gets. She needed us. You'll have more graduations." I remembered the part-time jobs I took in college to pay my own tuition while they wired money to Sam every month for her rent, her therapy, her meditation retreats. When I said my laptop was falling apart, Dad told me to check Craigslist. When Sam's crashed once, he overnighted her a brand new one. I remembered every time they told me I was doing great, and in the same breath reminded me to be patient with Sam, because she struggled, because she was sensitive, because I could take it. I'd built my life around being the reliable one, the one who needed nothing, the one who cleaned up the messes and didn't complain. But lying in that hospital bed with pain blooming across my body and silence echoing in my phone, I saw it for what it was. It wasn't strength they admired in me. It was convenience. I didn't interrupt their world. Sam did. So Sam got the softness, the attention, the protection. I got the responsibility, the expectations, the quiet dismissal. I'd told myself for years that I understood, that being the strong one was my role, that loving Sam meant tolerating the chaos she created, that my parents didn't mean to overlook me, they just needed to prioritize the crisis. But tonight, I was the crisis. And they still chose her. They always had. I turned to Leah and whispered, "They're not coming." She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with something that looked a lot like knowing. "Then don't wait for them," she said. "You don't deserve this. None of this." And that's when it shifted in me. Not suddenly, not explosively, just a slow, heavy cracking of something I'd carried for years. The belief that if I just kept holding on, they'd see me. The belief that love meant swallowing your own pain to make room for someone else's. The belief that being the strong one was something to be proud of. It wasn't pride anymore. It was loneliness. And for the first time, I let myself feel it. All of it. The weight, the grief, the betrayal. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to be their silent daughter anymore. The next morning, the nurse brought me a small mirror so I could see the bruising around my face. My temple was swollen, the gash along my hairline held together with 6 neat stitches. My eye was beginning to darken, turning an ugly shade of purple and green. My arm was immobilized in a fiberglass cast, and every movement sent sharp shocks through my ribs. Leah returned mid-shift, holding a paper bag of warm oatmeal and black coffee, and sat at the edge of the bed like she belonged there. "You need to report this," she said softly. "That wasn't an accident, Rachel. That was assault." I nodded slowly, but the word police still made something freeze in my chest. What would I even say? My sister hit me. My parents comforted her. They'll deny everything. They always do. Leah stared at me for a long moment. "You don't need their approval to protect yourself." Her words stayed with me long after she left. I stared at the ceiling tiles again, tracing the same brown water stain above the curtain track. I had always been afraid of ruining the family, of being the one to shatter the illusion, but the illusion had shattered on its own. I was the one bleeding. I was the one in bandages. Sam was likely curled on the couch at home, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea my mother made and whispering about how sorry she was. I opened my phone and scrolled to my messages. Nothing. Then I opened my email. Also empty. But I remembered something. A message Mom had sent me 2 days before the incident, asking if I could help cover Sam's car payment again this month. I had said yes, as always. That email was still there. I forwarded it to a new folder. Then I opened my photos and snapped a picture of my arm, of my face, of the hospital wristband. Then I pulled up the discharge notes the nurse had emailed me. Closed head trauma, fractured ulna, soft tissue swelling, possible contusions. I started gathering everything. Not for revenge, not yet. but because something inside me finally realized that if I didn't protect myself, no one would. I remembered Denise Calhoun, the housing attorney who had helped me 2 years ago when a former landlord tried to keep my deposit. She was sharp, calm, and never once treated me like I was overreacting. I searched for her contact and hesitated for only a second before hitting call. She picked up on the second ring. Calhoun Law Office, this is Denise. I cleared my throat. Hi. Denise. It's Rachel Monroe. We worked together before. I need help. She didn't rush me, didn't push, just listened as I told her what happened, that it was my sister, that I had injuries, that my parents were trying to brush it under the rug again, that I was done letting it happen. Her voice was steady. Okay, she said. Start forwarding everything you have. Photos, messages, medical records. I'll take care of the rest. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Thank you. Rachel. She said you are not overreacting. What happened to you is real. You don't owe anyone your silence. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time. Not crying, not panicking, just breathing. For the first time in years, I had made a decision that wasn't about them. It was about me, not keeping the peace, not playing the strong daughter, just protecting myself. And it felt terrifying. And it felt right. Denise met me in the hospital the next day. She arrived wearing a navy blazer, her dark hair pulled into a tight knot, and her tablet already in hand. She didn't waste time with small talk. She pulled up a chair, set her bag beside the bed, and began typing. Tell me everything she said. I started from the beginning. The kitchen, the skillet, the fall, the blood, the silence. My mother's call, my father's dismissal. Denise listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally, her fingers flying across the screen. When I finished, she looked up and said, This is a textbook pattern: emotional neglect, enabling, physical abuse, gaslighting, minimization. Then she asked the question that changed everything. What do you have to lose if you keep doing nothing? The answer sat in my throat like a stone. My sanity, my safety, myself. I told her about the mortgage, about how I'd co-signed the house 5 years ago to help my parents refinance, about how I'd been covering half the property tax every year since, about the emergency funds I'd transferred when Sam overdrafted again and again. Denise's expression tightened. That's leverage, and it's over. We're going to disentangle you from every legal tie, every financial obligation, starting today. She drafted the paperwork to revoke the shared property agreement. She prepared a motion for a restraining order citing medical records and witness statements from the neighbor who had called the ambulance. She told me to stop all payments immediately. She said she'd take care of notifying the bank and the county assessor. I want a clean slate, I said. No more access. No more guilt. Denise nodded. That includes your will. Beneficiaries. Power of attorney. Everything. I hadn't even realized I'd given them that kind of access years ago. At the time, I thought I was being responsible, thought I was helping. But now I saw it for what it was. Control. Not theirs. Mine. Or at least it would be once we cut the strings. Denise leaned back and studied me. You're doing the right thing. But it will get messy. They will push back. They will guilt you. They may even smear you. Are you ready for that? I thought about the silence from my mother, the disappointment in my father's voice, the image of Sam sitting upstairs crying while I bled on the kitchen floor. I nodded. Let them scream. I'm done bleeding quietly. Denise smiled without softness. Then let's finish this. I signed the first stack of documents with my left hand, the movement awkward but satisfying. Each signature felt like a crack in the chains I had lived with for too long. I'm not trying to punish them, I said. I just want to be free. Denise's eyes met mine. That's not punishment. That's protection. I looked out the window as the sun hit the edge of the blinds. For the first time in years, I felt the stirrings of something unfamiliar. Not anger, not fear. Resolve. I didn't know what the fallout would look like, but I knew I wouldn't be running from it. I would face it head on, and I wouldn't be alone. Not anymore. Not with someone like Denise beside me. Not with Leah checking in. Not with the version of myself that had finally stopped apologizing for surviving. This wasn't about revenge. It was about drawing a line in the sand and finally stepping over it. They showed up 2 days later. My father entered first, dressed in his usual gray slacks and a button-down shirt, like he was coming from church, though the tie around his neck was loosely hanging, as if meant to appear rushed. My mother followed closely behind, clutching a paper bag with banana bread inside, like it was some kind of peace offering. And then came Sam wearing oversized sunglasses despite the fluorescent hospital lights, her lip trembling with carefully curated sorrow. I was sitting up in bed, my arm still in a cast bandages around my temple when they walked in. No one asked if I was okay. No one acknowledged the bruises. My father cleared his throat and looked around the room like it offended him. My mother placed the banana bread on the side table and said softly, "Sam's very sorry." "Aren't you, sweetie?" Sam didn't speak. She just nodded once, lips tight, still hiding behind her glasses. I stared at them for a long moment. Then I said, "She hit me. I could have died." My father's face tensed. "Rachel, that's not fair. You know your sister wasn't in a good place. You provoked her." My mouth opened, but no words came. Provoked, like I had invited the blow to the skull, like I had leaned into the skillet on purpose. "She wasn't herself," Mom chimed in. "You know how she gets when she's overwhelmed. Don't be cruel." Cruel? I was cruel for nearly dying, for not disappearing quietly after being assaulted in their kitchen. I turned to the drawer beside me and pulled out the folder Denise had prepared. I handed it to my father. He took it with the hesitation of someone sensing a trap. "What's this?" he asked. "Medical reports, photos, legal notice. I'm filing a restraining order." My mother gasped. "Rachel, you're blowing this out of proportion. Your sister needs help, not punishment." I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up my phone and played the recording. My mother's voice filled the room, tinny but clear. "Rachel, Sam didn't mean to hurt you. She's not well. Please, don't make this worse." Sam's voice followed. "She made me feel small. I had to do something." My father's eyes widened. "You recorded us." "You always said I overreacted," I said calmly. "I just wanted to be sure this time I had the facts." Sam finally pulled off her sunglasses, her eyes wet with tears. "You don't understand what it's like to feel everything all the time. I was in pain." I snapped. "I didn't mean it. But you can't do this to me." My voice didn't waver. "I'm not doing anything to you. You did this. You hurt me. And now, you face the consequences." Dad stepped forward, voice rising. "After everything we've done for you, the support, the money, the roof over your head," I raised my hand. "Stop. The support I gave was never returned. The money always went to Sam, and I haven't lived under your roof in nearly a decade. You raised me to be responsible so you could ignore me, so you could pour everything into her and call me strong like it was a compliment. You never saw me." Denise stepped into the room, then standing quietly behind them. "Good afternoon. I'm Rachel's attorney. I believe we're done here." As of this moment, Rachel has revoked all legal and financial access, including co-ownership of the house shared accounts and any future medical or legal authority. She is no longer responsible for either of you in any capacity. My mother reached for my hand. "Rachel, we're family. You can't just walk away." I pulled my hand back. "Family doesn't mean letting someone hurt you and calling it love." Sam began to sob. My father looked like he'd been slapped. Denise opened the door. "Please leave." They left slowly, like they were in shock, like none of them had expected me to follow through. As the door closed behind them, the room fell silent. But it wasn't the kind of silence that crushed me. It was the kind that cleared space. The kind that made room for something new. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just breathed. And it felt like the first breath I'd taken in years. That night, I couldn't sleep. The pain in my arm was dull compared to the pounding in my chest. I stared at the hospital ceiling, replaying the scene over and over. Their faces, their denial, their accusations. The fact that not once did anyone ask if I was okay. Not once did they apologize. Not once did Sam take ownership. I opened my phone and stared at a blank Facebook post. For years, I had kept quiet. I never shared anything online that wasn't polite, professional, filtered. But something inside me had shifted permanently. I began typing. What happens when you're the strong one your whole life until you bleed and no one comes? What happens when your own sister breaks your bones and your parents hold her instead of you? I didn't name names. I didn't even post a photo. I just told the story in broad strokes, about being hurt, about being silenced, about being replaced by someone more dramatic, more fragile, more demanding, about how strength becomes invisibility. I hit post, and then I turned off my phone. I woke up to over 300 likes, 50 private messages, some from old classmates, some from coworkers, some from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Most of them said the same thing. I believe you. I've been there. Thank you for saying it. Some told me their own stories. Sisters who screamed and slammed doors and got away with everything. Brothers who caused scenes while they played mediator. Mothers who defended abusers. Fathers who told them they were exaggerating. I wasn't alone, and that realization made something inside me settle. Denise filed the formal restraining order that morning. Sam was ordered to complete a 6-month anger management program and remain at least 200 feet from me at all times. My parents, stunned by the legal action, tried calling from blocked numbers. I didn't answer. Denise had warned me. They'll lash out. They'll claim you're destroying the family, but this isn't destruction. It's liberation. I had her send the notices to their house. Registered mail. Signature required. I took myself off the mortgage, froze the joint account I'd been using to help with property tax. I removed them as emergency contacts and replaced them with Leah and Denise. I changed my will, deleted Sam from every password reset question, and when the hospital asked if I had family they should contact for discharge, I said no. I have people, just not family. A few days later, my aunt tried to organize a family Zoom to talk it out. I declined. Then the smear campaign began. My mother posted a vague status. Sometimes the ones you love the most betray you the deepest. The comment section filled with hearts and prayers and blind support. Sam wrote a post too. Said she was doing her best to recover from emotional trauma and that some people loved to kick you while you're down. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because people were starting to see through it. One of my cousins messaged me privately. I always wondered why you were so quiet at holidays. It wasn't peace. It was survival, wasn't it? Another said, we see you now, and we're sorry we didn't before. Leah organized a small gathering at her apartment the day I was discharged. It wasn't a celebration. It was a holding space. A few close friends. Denise brought cookies. Leah made tea. No one asked intrusive questions. They just listened. They made me feel real, made me feel seen, and I told them everything, for the first time without minimizing, without downplaying, without smiling through the hurt. That night, sitting on Leah's couch arm in a sling forehead still healing, I felt more loved than I ever had in my parents' house. The following week, I received a letter, handwritten, from Sam. It wasn't an apology, it was a plea. She said she missed me, that she didn't mean it, that she was sick, that I should understand, that therapy was hard, that she was hurting too. She ended it with, "You're still my sister." I tore it in half. I wrote nothing back, because being sisters never gave her the right to destroy me, and loving her never meant I had to destroy myself. I didn't need her to hurt more. I just needed her to stop hurting me. And if she couldn't do that, then we had nothing left. That week, I also finalized all paperwork with Denise. Every thread tying me to them was severed. The house, the bank, the legal rights, the digital access. Every door they had to me was closed. Some slammed, some quietly locked. But all final. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it because I wanted to live. And for the first time in my life, I was choosing me. No more peacekeeping, no more covering. No more bleeding in silence. It wasn't a dramatic revenge, it was a clean line. And I crossed it without looking back, After the paperwork was finalized and the hospital discharged me, I returned to my apartment, a small one-bedroom on the third floor with no elevator and stairs that mocked me with every step. Leah helped me up, carrying my bag, careful not to touch my injured side. The place was just as I'd left it, clean, quiet, and cold, in a way that felt both empty and safe. I sat on the couch cast, resting on a pillow, and let the silence wash over me. I thought it would feel like relief, but it didn't. Not yet. That night, the messages began. First from my mother. Rachel, you're tearing this family apart. Please come to your senses before it's too late. I didn't respond. Then Sam texting from an unknown number. I know you're mad, but I need help. I'm trying. I have no one. Please, don't do this. Still, I said nothing. Then a Facebook post appeared on my wall from my father. Not tagged, just floating publicly. Some people forget who raised them. They rewrite history to gain sympathy. Sad. The comments came quickly. Hang in there, Rich. You and Eleanor raised two amazing girls. Don't let one mistake define everything. I read it once. Then I closed the app and deleted it from my phone. I knew what they were doing. They couldn't reach me directly, so they turned to guilt by way of audience. They wanted pity. They wanted allies. They wanted control. I wasn't going to give it to them. That didn't mean it didn't hurt. Because it did. Every word was a hook in old wounds. Every manipulation a reminder of the roles we were supposed to play. The strong one and the broken one. The peacemaker and the storm. But I had stepped out of my role, and now they didn't know what to do with me. That night I cried. Not a quiet, graceful cry, but the kind that racks your chest and makes you feel like your bones might collapse under the weight of it all. I curled on my side as best I could, my cast pressing awkwardly against a cushion, and sobbed into the fabric of my couch until I had nothing left. I cried for the child who never felt seen, for the teenager who clapped alone at her own achievements, for the woman who almost died and still got blamed. I cried for all the years I had mistaken endurance for love. And in the morning, something strange happened. I felt lighter. The grief wasn't gone, but it had shifted. It no longer sat on my chest. It floated beside me, quiet and bearable. I checked my messages and found one from my great-aunt Louise, a woman I hadn't seen in years. It simply said, "You were never the problem. I'm proud of you." That one made me cry again, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was from being seen. Really seen. I started therapy a week later. The therapist, a middle-aged woman named Nora, asked me what I wanted out of the process. I told her the truth. I don't want to be silent anymore. She nodded like she understood exactly what that meant. We spent the first session just untangling years of patterns of guilt, of silence. I told her about Sam, about my parents, about the incident in the kitchen, about how no one had ever checked to see if I was bleeding because they were too busy checking if Sam was crying. I didn't hold anything back. And for the first time, someone validated every word. Nora said, "That wasn't love. That was emotional abandonment disguised as loyalty. You were conditioned to believe love is earned by disappearing." That hit like lightning, and then it settled like truth. I left that session tired but lighter, like something had shifted inside me permanently. I still got messages, from relatives, from old friends who didn't understand, but I didn't answer them. Denise had said silence is also an answer, and now I understood that fully. I didn't owe anyone my explanation. My survival didn't need their approval. I was finally building a life that belonged to me, not one managed by obligation, by guilt, by their version of events. Mine, and that was enough. For now, it was more than enough. I changed my number 2 weeks later, deleted the old voicemails, blocked every email address that brought me dread. I walked into the HR office at the hospital and requested a transfer to a different unit on the other side of town. My supervisor didn't ask questions. She just looked at me with quiet understanding and told me she'd make it happen. I packed my apartment slowly, one box at a time, careful with every movement of my healing arm. Leah came by with takeout and taped labels while we laughed at nothing just to remember what laughter felt like. I found old journals in the back of my closet pages filled with entries I barely remembered writing. Almost all of them mentioned Sam. How she yelled, how I stayed quiet. How I thought if I could just be better, calmer, more helpful, things would change. They never did, but I did. I started writing again, not for survival, but for clarity. I wrote, I am not her shadow. I am not her scapegoat. I am not the silence between storms. I am a person, and I matter. The more I wrote, the more I felt stitched back together. One quiet afternoon while sitting at a cafe near my new place, I began sketching the idea for a support group, a small circle for people like me, people who were the forgotten child, the strong one, the one who had to grow up while someone else got to fall apart over and over. I called it Quiet Strength. It started as a Google Doc and became a nonprofit account within a month. Denise helped me file the paperwork. Leah designed the website. Donations trickled in from people who read my anonymous post and saw themselves in my words. I wasn't just healing. I was building something bigger than their shame, something rooted in truth. I moved into a new apartment with more sunlight and less noise. My favorite spot was a chair by the window where I could drink tea in silence that didn't feel like punishment. One Saturday, I walked to a nearby park with Leah and Denise. We brought sandwiches and a blanket. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. There was peace in just existing without explanation. I watched a child chase a kite and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Not because no one could hurt me, but because I had learned how to protect myself. I had boundaries now. I had allies. I had myself. And she was enough. Later that week, I received one last letter from my parents. It wasn't an apology. It was a request. They wanted to meet, to talk, to explain. I burned it, not out of hatred, but out of clarity. I didn't need another conversation. I didn't need them to justify what they had done or didn't do. I knew the truth, and that was enough. I watered my plants that evening and wrote in my journal, I am no longer asking for permission to be whole. I am whole without them, without their approval, without the story they tried to write for me. I cooked myself dinner and didn't feel guilty for eating alone. I read a novel cover to cover without looking at my phone. I went to sleep and didn't dream of being hurt. In the morning, I opened my eyes to light and air and the steady rhythm of a life that belonged only to me. Not borrowed, not shared, not sacrificed. Mine. Quiet, steady, real. And I would never give it away again. Sometimes I sit on the park bench near my apartment and watch the wind move through the trees like a quiet wave, steady and patient. And I think about who I used to be. I think about the girl who apologized for existing too loudly, the young woman who stayed silent during arguments to keep the peace, the daughter who made herself smaller so her sister could take up all the space. I used to believe that loving someone meant accepting pain without protest, that loyalty meant silence, and that being strong meant never asking for help. I used to believe that if I was good enough, kind enough, useful enough, they'd see me, that they'd choose me finally just once, but they never did. And the day I stopped begging for that was the day I finally began to heal. When I tell people my story now, I don't tell it to seek revenge or pity. I tell it because somewhere out there is another strong one sitting in a hospital bed or crying in a locked bathroom or holding back tears during a family dinner while everyone fusses over the one who broke things. And I want her to know this. You don't have to bleed to be believed. You don't have to wait for them to see your pain before you decide to stop carrying it. You don't have to earn love by giving more than you have. You are already enough. You are already worthy, and you are allowed to say no. I thought choosing myself would feel selfish. It didn't. It felt like oxygen, like light, like my own name spoken without shame. I no longer see family as the people who raised me or the ones who share my blood. Family is Leah bringing me soup without asking. It's Denise showing up with documents and truth. It's the women in my support group holding space for each other's stories. It's the nurse who called me by my first name and said, "You matter." Family is who shows up when the lights go out, not who turns them off and tells you to be grateful for the dark. I still get sad sometimes. Grief doesn't vanish just because healing begins. I grieve the idea of parents who might have loved me differently. I grieve the years I lost trying to be small enough to fit their version of daughter, but grief is no longer my home. It's just a place I pass through. My home is peace. My home is a life where no one raises their voice at me in the kitchen. where silence means calm, not punishment, where my strength is mine to define. Sometimes when the wind is soft and the sky is clear, I walk alone and feel no ache. Just space, just breath, just me. To anyone out there still hoping they'll change, still waiting to be seen, still afraid to let go, I want you to know you are not alone. You are not wrong for leaving. You are not cruel for drawing boundaries. You are not broken for breaking the cycle. And even if no one claps when you stand up anyway. Even if no one says thank you when you finally speak anyway. Even if they call you cold, dramatic, heartless, be free anyway. Because the day you stop performing strength for people who only value you when you're silent is the day you begin to live. I walked away from the only version of family I ever knew, and in doing so, I found something better. I found myself. And I am no longer asking for love. I am living it. Quietly, fiercely, fully, and finally on my own terms.